Heyo!
Yo.
Greetings.
You didn't think you'd see us again,
But you were wrong.
but here we are.
And
You
here we
know.
have all of our friends.
Up to these games. Yeah, welcome back. We had some like chatter on the Discord throughout the week that people wanted like to kind of conclude things a little bit more. The ending of the campaign was admittedly rushed. It was like 11:30, and I was feeling like we needed to try to just like wrap it up. And so I kind of rushed through the final things. And so we can kind of move through that stuff more slowly if you want to, if you guys wanted to like slow down and appreciate any of it. And I do kind of have some further things for you guys when you're in the kingdoms. I don't really think we're even going to be rolling any dice tonight, but we might be like role-playing and acting as our characters.
Is it even a role-playing game if we don't roll dice? We have to roll the gravity well.
All we need to do is
Or
play a roll.
Or OLD roll.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's different spelling, but I mean the gravity well. It's an interesting point. I feel like
We could wait until we have to roll a die, and then we roll it first.
I mean, I'm always down to roll. I've been practicing.
Kitty's rolling in the chat.
That'll do.
Ooh.
Boom.
Good.
18.
I don't mind.
I know that was classically for the Game Master, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It can.
I'm cool with that.
It can be decided,
It
you
can
know,
be
on the fly.
shared.
Yeah.
For this finale, it can be a table-wide. At this point in the game, there's no Game Master versus players dynamic.
Yeah, we all survived, so
Yeah.
we win.
The story.
Oh.
Whoa!
No.
Table is extra wild tonight because there's no mat down on it.
I'm gonna roll in my cordon bleu sandwich.
Oh!
I made it worse.
Lord, I hope I get a
Don't
nat
roll on a
one.
sandwich.
Wow.
Tonight I would be okay
You're
with.
lucky as
Tonight
hell
I would
that
be
did
okay
not
with
happen.
Josh rolling. Actually,
Yeah.
this is a rarity, though.
That is our result.
They're on a 4 right now, which means their roleplay will be weak tonight.
Yeah,
Josh
sorry,
is
sauce.
Josh has got us back here with a
But
4
Chad's gonna
roll.
be
He's like,
fired.
well, now that you're back
Yeah.
in the city's judges, have a couple words for you. Everyone dies in the skirmish.
Speaking of judges, I assume that y'all all realize that Yurik is totally free and clear of all of his charges at this point because of, just getting away with everything, right?
Well, I think
have
that's debatable because
I
those
have some
judges-
stuff about that, actually.
Uh-oh.
I was just about to say, I think Yurik's continued character is something that I'm most intrigued by because I feel like along the journey, Yurik's character is one of those that, even though we found out several things near the end there, it's still sort of mysterious, Yurik's entire past, and like him as a character changed in my eyes quite a bit from when we started. It's like an old, an
old
older,
cheerful,
sort of
innocent,
cheerful, like businessman,
cook.
family man, into some sort of like
Providing you with sustenance, that is certainly like a immediate nurturing role.
yeah. It's
to
almost
be
as
in.
if it's like that's your cover. It's like, well, you need to eat, do you not?
Yeah.
Well,
and that was the idea from the start.
Yeah.
When Daniel pitched the character, we knew from the beginning that he had a criminal past, but he was like, I want him to be very, very unassuming.
Yeah.
And so that nobody will even suspect it.
Yeah,
right?
I
This is when
definitely,
it
I
comes.
certainly didn't.
Yeah.
I realized
certainly
pretty early on that I started to make him, like, as he got more stressed, he definitely became more willing to kind of like just sort of show his true colors, which was kind of fun to end up role playing that in that capacity. Like, especially I think it came out a lot with like conversations with Lhanji, just like not exactly like just being gentle, or still trying to be gentle at least, while also being an asshole.
You came out to be pretty cutthroat at times, certainly.
Not literally cutthroat.
Yes.
That was Timothy's
That was
job.
Timothy,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely had an idea for for him to get to that point to where like, and I even early on when I was rehearsing his voice, kind of did two different voices for him, like a more softer, gentle one, which is not really his voice, and then the one that I think did for whenever we role played. With what's his name, the guy got his head cut off.
His criminal voice.
Oh yeah.
I did more of his regular voice, which is something that he doesn't show off very often unless it's around his true people. So
I've been trying to match this character to. I was like, this is a familiar story to me. So I was trying to go through my brain, and it's from a character from a Korean drama. Kimchi Family.
What is it?
Kimchi Family, great show.
Oh man.
But there's this older character called Uncle, who is like a kind of secondary character, but he lives at this like. Most of the action is taking place at a kind of traditional it's kind of like a combo inn and restaurant. Like people can come and dine there regularly, but it also has limited number of like rooms that you can rent and stay and eat. And Uncle was like close to the owner, who I believe dies. No, he loses his. This is so K-drama. Loses his memory and just starts wandering the countryside. So owner
like
is gone. Uncle is like the closest.
Guess I'll do that now.
Second in line, and so he's working with all this food as an expert chef, and it turns out, around at the last third of the series, you find out that he had a criminal past and has lost connection with his family, and the only person who saw good in him was the restaurant owner, who's gone missing, but he's kind of in refuge as a chef. So apparently this is a tried and true archetype.
Yeah,
there you go. Nailed it.
The Uric archetype.
Oh yeah. You can tell that never happened, but it's probably in the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Someone like Alexi was like, this was probably a campfire conversation where Alexi was like, "You sure know how to wield a blade."
Yeah. You sure know how to wield a cast iron lid. Well, it's actually interesting. The beginning of his past as players, their characters wouldn't know this, but his ptosis, is being neurotoxic, is actually one of his early hunts of eggs. He actually touched and got encounter with an egg that was covered in a poison that almost killed him. And that's how he got the
dragon egg.
It wasn't a dragon egg. It was some weird creature that that had poison covered eggs. Basically, was what I was going with, and so that was actually what gave him his his trouble in the game. So he's been doing it for a while.
Yeah. So the trouble was kind of loaded. If we had studied it more closely, we could.
But I was so unassuming that I was just like,
I was
an
willing
old
to get
man, whatever.
I was waiting for that to someone to like peek into that neurotoxic piece. That's why I wanted.
No one asked.
Get your ptosis from.
I would like to talk about it. I was always curious on like, especially early on, a lot of talks between Uric and Lhanji, because it felt like there was not quite that Uric never like sort of trusted her leadership, but more of the fact that he saw himself as in an equal position, or like equally positioned, and which I guess comes from, could definitely come from like a history of sort of manning these kind of adventures several times or whatever.
I definitely felt that early on, and that was not something that I had initially designed for the character. It just felt right in the moment to argue with Lhanji because she was in charge, and Uric is used to being in charge.
Right.
I was just like, he owns a pretty, like, for years he's owned a criminal organization, and he has also been in charge of the Milksmith, which is a huge organization across countrywide. So it seemed like he probably didn't take orders well, and he was trying to adjust to that, but didn't do a very good job.
I think it was great though, because I feel like it was good to have, because Lhanji definitely had her sort of followers and sort of in like Alexei, who seems like a kind of a soldier archetype, where it's like do what needs to be done, whatever I'm ordered or whatever, and then Tay, who sort of worship Lhanji, and I think it was nice to. I feel like it was really cool to have like someone who was questioning her, kind of all along the way. Yeah. And
those were some interesting role plays too, for sure. Like, I feel like Lhanji did a pretty incredible job of like shutting his shit down.
Yeah, you guys really got into it.
Yeah, it was. I feel
a couple times.
I mean, you threatened to leave, basically.
Yeah. I feel like they were quite equal. So, as in terms of like power and experience, like equally qualified to lead the group, but somebody had the money and actually did.
Somebody was able to put the money down.
That's the other thing I wanted out of Yurik too, was like I wanted him to have this vast wealth beyond what would have been normally accrued by his normal, like kind of like a Breaking Bad situation, right? Where he's got billions of dollars or something, but you can't use it because it's all, you can't just bring out that much money.
He has to live a simple life.
Yeah, and so he's basically just trapped. He's like can't show this huge amount of power off.
Yeah, it's tied up in the farm, and it's tied up in like money laundering and stuff. So it's not something. It's not liquid, right? It's like something that's assets or whatnot. Yeah,
going to his family, and it's like, you didn't earn this shit.
I want to see
I earned this shit.
State tax returns.
Good luck.
Right? Well, pertaining to the Milksmith name, I think one of the things that is mentioned in the conversation with the Crossed Keys members who encounter you guys around like the Ekshaw village and basically want to make sure that you're swearing to keep at least part of your story secret, right? And part of what they are offering is a squeaky clean reputation for all of you, including the Milksmiths and the Milksmith name. And in fact, maybe they can help you to like move some of that wealth that you have.
Interesting.
In exchange for keeping this secret.
Do the Cross Keys know about Milksmith? Like, would they know sort of that?
Well, I mean,
into
they asked they asked for the debriefing from you.
The full report.
So if you gave that to them, then they would know it, and if not, then whatever. That they're still.
I think
they do know that there were judges after Yurik, right?
I think presented with this opportunity, Yurik would, because these people that he's traveled with have spilt the beans, right? And I think it makes a lot of sense that, or not spilt the beans, but know his secret. He's willingly given that, and he's been looking for an opportunity, like he confronted Ash in the last episode, looking for that opportunity to find some security within it. So I think he would even like start to try to gamble with them if he was able to, like tell them like what he's offering, like in return, like this is what you will get.
Yeah.
So I think that he would definitely buy that, and I think if they made any rolls against his sincerity, then
Yeah, I don't feel like we need to make any rolls tonight, and
no, right.
And what I want to make clear to everyone is that you can be making this promise to them now, and you can choose to break it later if you want to. And I'm not interested in rolling to see if they like catch the deceit or not.
Right.
Because season 2, if you wish for your characters to come back, they can be on either side of that line, and that could make it a different story one way or the other, and that's something that we can approach when it comes closer to like running that season.
I think if seeing them make this sort of offer, I think Ash would implore Yurik to take it. I think he would say, like, because they had that conversation right at the last episode, he'd say, this is your chance. You need to take this.
He would
trust
be about that,
trust
for sure.
them. They are more powerful than you can imagine, and they can do. They can do what they say. This is that chance.
Yeah, that is that is where I got the name Kitty. Was actually from Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, totally. But I loved the name, and it was a simple symbol, and it just totally made sense for like the concept. So I just ripped it off completely.
That's awesome.
Secret hotel concierge group is not mentioned in the Wikipedia article, but apparently Cross Keys is the official drink of one of the universities in Canberra.
Whoa.
I'm like, why doesn't my university have an official drink?
Official drink.
Curses Southern Dry campuses.
Damn it.
Yeah.
But he would take that deal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? Lhanji sure would, with intent to betray later.
Well, what kind of deal? Yeah, I was interested to see, like, you know, obviously Lhanji swore to sort of to Ash, but like, you know, with the way that the last episode went, I feel like Lhanji certainly wasn't sort of on board 100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to like what they would even be able to offer Lhanji at this point, or like what, because I feel like that was like the biggest question mark of like how does Lhanji respond to them approaching and like basically taking her hard-earned like victory away from her.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, yes and no. The part of the story that they want you guys to redact is that there was a pyramid there, and that there was a pyramid that led to a portal that led to the rings, right? They're like, you can say that you got to the North Pole, you can say that you encountered the dragons, you can say that the dragons were, like, singing, and whatever else. But, like, beyond that part of the story needs to be kept secret. So you can still go back and you can still claim your reward and you can still have your fame.
Can't talk about the big gelatinous monster.
Yeah.
Monster God.
So that's really the part of the story that
and
they're
I
interested
feel
in
like
keeping secret.
the incentive to like, I feel like agreeing to keep this quiet is basically the toll for coming back into society. Even if the Cross Keys weren't threatening, like, if you can't keep this quiet, we will have to kill you. Ash, I feel like, pretty much made that ultimatum.
Yeah. I agree.
And it would certainly seem wise not to mess with a secret organization. Who, like, they straight up mentioned that they're like, you've probably been in circles with our members and you're not aware. So, like, Lhanji is excited by the challenge of retaliating against an organization. Like, she's got a new project. It's like, we have to figure out who's attached, we have to figure out how deep this goes.
I just finished watching Chernobyl. It reminds me of the KGB. All of a sudden, there's Cross Keys. It's sort of like
Hilarious.
we're going to keep
It's so
like
funny.
just the word redacted, and I'm just like, oh yeah. It's like we're just we're going to keep that hidden.
I feel like they're
we're everywhere.
Don't talk
like
about that.
quite a neutral kind of, like, their goals are not evil by any stretch of the imagination, but they sure struck Lhanji the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Like, it's all of a sudden Lhanji really cares about free speech.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, you could restrict what I am allowed to say?
Yeah.
Well, this certainly won't do.
Suddenly have an opinion about that.
Yeah, and I think that's what's inherently kind of like, I don't know, offensive about them as like a group. Is it's like, yeah, we get that some secrets are like too dangerous for the world to know, but like, who are you to decide what they should and shouldn't know, right?
Yeah.
You're also kind of like directing the fates of the world in a way that we don't know that it should be in your hands, or should it be in other people's hands or everybody's hands, right? So that is an intriguing element of that group from the beginning.
They could do with some healthy competition. Light a fire under their ass.
Well, they do have a competition
They do.
in the what were they called?
Something.
Yeah.
Lanterns of Oromedis.
There you go.
The Lanterns of Oromedis.
Spot on.
Yeah, which in fact, in bringing that up, the one like scene that I had kind of thought of tonight, I think we should just play out,
Let's do it.
and then we can like discuss and just talk about our characters and the other things of the game. But you guys having made these agreements to the Crossed Keys that they, allow you guys to travel back to the kingdoms, and when you guys return to Othilium, the city where you guys left from, which is where their Lhanji's estate is there, right? Where the party first knocked on the door and Navius answered the door.
Oh man!
And
that was that scene.
Yeah, totally, because Lhanji was already down the road, getting stuff done, right?
Such a power play.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was. Before we even knew.
So when you guys get back, there is a letter for you, because word has traveled that these people have returned, and that they returned from the North Pole triumphantly, right? So there's a letter there for you from a Duke Renfrey Jocelyn is this person's name, and
Jocelyn sounds familiar.
There's an address. If it is familiar, it's not intended to be.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember if that was one of the other expedition.
No. And it basically says to claim your reward, come to this address, right? And it's an estate in the aristocratic neighborhoods of Othilium.
I don't know. I feel like I did have a chance to talk with Taylor, so tentatively, I feel like Alexi could kind of move in to Lhanji's emergency. I have a bodyguard space.
Sure, I love that.
I feel like Alexi would come with. Because I think Taylor and I did kind of talk about similar feelings to want to make sure that Furla felt welcome into they're trying to keep Furla involved. Not let Furla run away into the waste.
Yeah, just disappear into the wild.
And I think this letter would be imploring for for the expedition to come to claim the reward, right? Not just you, but for everyone to come.
Oh, did we pick up Dolph on the way back?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dolph's there.
That actually struck a fun thought. It's we'll get all of the surviving members and then bring have some kind of representation of the fallen members to bring to show off what a good little expedition we were. That we're honoring our dead as we come to collect our reward.
A ribbon and
for those who fell.
I don't know what kind of fancy, I'm imagining some kind of little wrapped up. I'm thinking of all of the sweet little ceremonial Japanese accoutrement where you're it's just cute stuff wrapped up really cute. It's ceremonial.
It's a little box that has
wrapped up in Dolph tape.
Yes, yes.
Damn.
We make Dolph tape sculptures.
You need to trademark that, man.
Dolph tape.
I think Dolph did.
Yeah. Dolph.
I think this is what he invests his money is that he gets from the reward.
He's richer than any of you think.
Yeah. So do you guys go to this estate?
Oh, yeah.
Ash does not. I think as soon as we return to the cities, Ash peels off from the group and sort of I'm
curious about that.
It's not something that I planned on all along. In fact, it took me kind of until a little bit past mid game, I would say, to sort of really get the idea in my head that Ash is not there for anyone that's present. He's not there. He is on his own mission, and I know everyone had their own things, but he was specifically on his own mission in a way that the less he could become attached, the better. And which I think, luckily, it sort of played to the way that sort of planned him earlier on, but then that gave it a little bit more of a direction.
He was,
where it's just
such a smooth customer.
I'm just gonna because he knows that if he wants to, and this is his life, being a member of the Crossed Keys is his purpose, and he has found that in the Crossed Keys, that's his new family, that's his new this is who I answer to, right? Not to my family, not to my parents, not to this is the high society or whatever. This is who I answer to. So he knows that the less he can sort of get involved or have people get involved in his life, the better he can be to the Crossed Keys as a secret member of a secret society, right? So I think as soon as as soon as you return, he returns to wherever the like an underground secret spot for the Cross Keys is. I feel like possibly when you meet the Cross Keys in the Extra Village, he might have just left with them, and sort of probably said goodbye to Tay, and like basically a nod, and then has returned and is off.
Well, that's totally cool. If you would like to do that. I will say that if you want to retcon it because of like what is about to happen, say that you would like him to be there for another reason, then that's okay too. But you guys go to this estate.
He can be there though.
And you're brought in by like a butler or something like that, and brought into a main hall. And in the main hall there are 3 characters here. One that if Ash were here, he would recognize, but who is introduced. There's probably somebody here who is introducing each of these characters, right? So the first who is introduced is Duke Renfrey Jocelyn of the Pendant. Yeah, and he's a foppish kind of fellow, and with like the kind of flipped over blonde hair. An older gentleman though, and he has like a kind of a bit of a hobble, and like walks with a cane, and kind of introduces himself and does the the hand, the Lady Vree kisses her hand, and he says, "Oh, congratulations to you all! You have won a great fortune in achieving what you have, and we are so anxious to hear about what you have found. And let me introduce the others here. We have, of course, Raminar the Knowing." And he gestures to the side, and there is a old man.
Retcon that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you will retcon that the Cross Keys.
You went
when we meet them. They say,
Raminar's in town. Yes, I was going to suggest that too. That you go to wherever the secret meeting place is, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Like Raminar's there, right?
Yeah.
So you burst in a moment later.
Are you redacting them?
I'm redacting them. I'm saying at the Actual Village, the Cross Keys in our like conversation, in Ash's conversation just with them, they like probably instruct me like Raminar's instructions. Follow the group. Make sure that they all
stay true to their word.
Stay true and come to this
there
meeting.
You go.
Yeah, I mean, if you get back to, like, even if you split at the Exshot Village and you got back to the city and then met with Raminar, who's like your master, right? And he was basically like, I'm about to go do this meeting and you should be there. So then maybe you come in with him, and then it's kind of this weird thing of like, we come in together and then he comes in with Raminar.
It would be totally baller if you left us at Exshot Village and then showed up to the meeting where we were all summoned.
I like that. Yeah,
that would be such a divisive.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm standing sort of just like a few steps behind Raminar.
Yeah, you're not
just like stone faced.
Dick
move. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Well, the other person he gestures to the other side is a woman dressed in like flowing blue robes, and on the center of it is a sigil of a lantern, and she is Cardinal Landgrave. She is, a cardinal, right? She's a high priest of.
She's a bird
of Orematus, and the lanterns of Orematus in many ways are the opposite of the Order of the Cross.
Yeah, how it's like. I guess like at this point with my superior there, I probably wouldn't question the fact that she's there, but I would.
Raminar is
devout.
Raminar is kind of fuming, right? Like he's not happy about the fact that she is there right now. He did not know that was going to be the case. He was invited here for the reveal, to like being a lore master. This Duke explains himself to you all that he was a soldier, but then was injured and got into like history and wanted to like reveal all of these mysteries that he had like read about in these books, and so he invested his fortune into like discovering these things, and has made friends with the Order of Orematus, because that is the god of like knowledge and wisdom, and the lanterns are all about shedding light into the dark places of the world and sharing wisdom. And their mentality is that like knowledge is a power that like should be wielded by all and should be given to all, right? So they are like diametrically opposed to the Order of the Crossed Keys, and maybe two of the highest ranking members of each of the organizations are now in this same room.
That's wild.
I feel like that's the story of those organizations live. It's like once you get to the highest levels of each, you're always finding that you and the other person are invited to the same thing, and you're like, I just can't see
You again.
Damn it.
Yeah.
But you can't say anything about it. You can't talk about it.
So
stupid rich people riding the fence.
So Duke Renfrey asks you all to explain before us and recount your adventure, and you don't have to get into all of the like minutia and all of the details, but really you can just tell me like, do you if you want to, I'll allow you guys to do it, but don't feel like you have to get all crazy into it. The big point is, do you keep the secret, I guess.
He wants to know what we discovered at the North Pole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lhanji says we don't discuss anything until we're in the drawing room. We need to be seated with drinks in our hands.
It's been a long journey.
Yes, very good, Lady Vree. Excellent suggestion. He like claps his hands, and like waiters like shuffle out from the corners that you hardly even noticed because they were so like tucked back and unassuming.
Right. So now that we're comfy.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Lhanji would have been ready the whole way back, would have been formulating the narrative that she's going to tell everyone she knows, like Instagram story, Twitter. She wants everyone to know her expedition did it.
Tay's been doing Instagram stories
Someone
the
is
whole
dead at the
way,
bottom of it.
Facebook, even MySpace.
Up here at the North Pole's crazy!
Galoopalinks!
What is up with this portal?
Oh no, it's from
Oh yeah,
I mean,
they didn't
no
work.
portal. What portal?
But totally keeps the secret, but has, and I feel like this would be important for everyone else in the expedition to hear the version that Lhanji says, which just like edits. I feel like she would probably include details about how like at that point the altitude was extreme, like we were struggling to stay like alert and in our right minds a lot of the time, you know, like, and then that easily loops into like so and so was so courageous and brave and we survived the avalanche.
Skipping over things, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like trying to
the ring fall. Did you guys bring back that big piece of ringstone with you? The battery. I mean, I think there was
inside the temple.
Mm-hmm.
We probably tried, but I don't know. Like,
yeah, it seems like it would be
that
really
would be
hard.
a lot.
I feel like we might have taken bits.
honestly,
I don't know if it
would Ash, as the representative of the Cross Keys, have had any opinion? Because I feel like removing the battery is more than just like we get ringfall. It's like this is what gives you access to the portal.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that Ash would implore the group that we leave this here. This stays here. We can pick up the ringfall from the grove. But this has to stay here. Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I think that Ash would know that like this is the thing that stays secret, right? So like this thing has to be as like it's very difficult to sort of like explain a 100-pound piece of ringfall in this sort of shape. Because you said it looked. Was it different than regular ring?
It was like crystalline kind of looking. Yeah.
Was it different than normal ringfall? Well, this is the story about
this is
how our lives
all about how our lives got flipped, turned upside down. Now let's just take a minute while I drop this on you and tell you all about
Expedition Dracana.
Well,
wow, we are very good at rapping, I will say.
YouTubers, there was a reason we sang that.
Yep. Y'all spitting hot garbage over here.
It was in the chat. Thank
Copyright
you,
Diggia.
I mean, is there anything different about this Ringfall than the rest of the Ringfall. I think Furla would urge against taking the Ringfall from the Grove.
Oh, I think at this point, like, if it comes to an executive decision needs to be made, Lhanji's like, we invested our Ringfall in the Grove, we are not taking this with, we have no carts, we're not taking this with us, you know, like, we need to get out.
I think it would be pretty impractical to try to bring it back. I mean, just thinking the trek up, and we got one wagon, we have no food.
Yeah.
We have to get past these dragons, like
Well, the dragons leave. Yeah.
Oh, we did wait for the dragons.
But yeah, I do think that like survival instincts would just kick in for both Yurik and Ash, as far as just like
just
like,
leave it.
let's just
Leave
let's
it.
just
You've
get
got
out
a
of here.
fortune promised when you get back already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Ash still has it sewed up in his cloak, though.
Yeah.
Poor cheesy.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, you guys have this conversation. I think the Lantern, Cardinal Landgrave, kind of picks and prods a little bit at your story, and you maybe get the sense that she maybe isn't like just 100% buying everything.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to go any further than that. But
Lhanji's probably great at avoiding.
Totally.
It's like a presidential debate where it's like you ask a direct question and they're like, I really think the children are.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Let me tell you why.
Let me tell you about something different than what you asked about.
I think Furla is mostly quiet through the whole thing, but there's a moment when Lhanji's talking about the bravery of Ash, like towards the very end of it, and Furla speaks up and says, well, that was at a time when we thought that he belonged to us and we belonged to him before we realized that he was a parasite.
Some cryptic dryad. Just
and then just stares at him.
Yeah, you're probably as fuming as Furla can be.
Yeah, and Lhanji is like, the trauma is
the
evident.
Cardinal raises her eyebrow and Raminar coughs and changes the subject.
Right.
Raminar's got like a little sweat running down his brow too, and there's lots of like eyes being shot at people. And
Yurik is in a perfect place. As long as the eyes aren't on him, he's excited to be there.
You're just like enjoying all the hors d'oeuvres.
Delicious food. It's your cook.
You go right for the endives.
All of us as
I never thought I'd see them again.
Yeah, they have to keep the endives coming because we're all endive deficient.
all right,
Polenta gets no attention.
Well, try the fried polenta cakes.
Polenta will
we've had
forever
enough.
be associated
It's like that
with the
scene in
story.
Castaway where he finally gets back from the island and all that's at the buffet to welcome him back is like crab.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck.
God damn it.
so you guys tell your story, and eventually you are dismissed, and you're given like some sorts of like waivers or something that are your go to the bank to like collect your money.
Our giant
It's a
check.
huge sum of money.
It's a giant
Go to the bank
dollar
to
note.
take full ownership of the bank.
Here's your country that we signed up to.
Is there a number that we're getting, or is this just some huge sum of money?
Yeah, I didn't really have a particular
That's okay.
number in
I didn't know if
mind.
you had.
I didn't like look up what things were worth, but
It is quite a fortune, though.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know, at least like probably like 50,000 gold each or something like that, if not
my God.
like more than that, like enough probably to buy like a decent like ship or something, or buy like easily
keep.
like a keep or something like that. Or maybe even 100. I don't know. Just a huge sum of money. Right?
Yurik is donating this shit like straight up to the Frost Forge and like to the like
Oh, he's just
the wrecked like oil spill that they had deep in the mine or something like that. He's donating to that good
philanthropist.
cause. Yes.
Yeah.
And people hear about it across the
Of course, because everyone knows the Milksmith.
Kissing
name.
babies,
Yes. That is definitely what Yurik's doing with that cash.
throwing paper towels out of airplanes.
And I do think, like I said last week, the same thing happens where at some time later, the Crossed Keys shows up at Lhanji's estate and basically has the promise of a new mission. And you don't necessarily have to say now in the moment whether you would like your character to be involved in that or not. But if you do have a sense of that, you can kind of...
Season 2!
Yeah, Season 2 of Expedition Dracana, which will be sailing beyond the ring line. So this world, the map that we have shown...
Map hype!
Pull it up! This map is pole-centric. Because that's where we were moving toward the whole time, was the center of the map, right? So the very outside of this map would be the equator, and then beyond that is uncharted seas. The equator itself, the ring line, is extremely dangerous sea because it's directly beneath the rings, and so ringfall happens there regularly, and so the water is all dangerous and crazy. And, you know, pirates and of course the dragons fly up from beyond the ring line mostly, so... yeah, dangerous place, uncharted. I don't have like a specific adventure pitch at all, but I'm totally open to any of these characters returning if they would like to return, and like continuing like working with the crossed keys if they want to, or if they want to like flip and reveal their secret or something, they can. That can be a part of the next season. Or they can be already on that course beforehand. I'm totally open to that, going whatever direction.
I just realized something that I would do, and that Yurik would do, because he fears Lhanji opening her big mouth. And I think that he would try to start keeping her mouth closed by funneling wealth from his shit that he can't expose to her.
Ooh, yeah, you get her like involved in your
I think he would offer
a
like basically a steady sum of money to her, and potentially being like, this could you know, be used to fund this expedition, or, you know, like
sponsors,
basically like whatever it is that you want to do with the money. Not necessarily if he knew about, he wouldn't maybe know about that opportunity, but basically would needs Lhanji to keep her mouth shut, and would offer her like from his extended wealth the opportunity.
I actually have what I think is that Lhanji is going to play the long con, and would kind of take, you know, like what she would tell Yurik is she's taking a sabbatical from pursuing economic ventures while she makes sure her daughter heals and returns to her motherly duties. She wants to focus on that relationship since she's been absent for so long, which she does do a little bit of, but is also like starting in her home base where she has a network, trying to figure out what kind of moves, you know, like the vulnerabilities of the crossed keys. So she, I think, rather than do an immediate betrayal, is going to like try to build up, figure out what alliances would please her, perhaps strike her own path. But I think it's going to be a while before she makes a counter strike. So she's going to keep the secret, probably for like up to 2 days. You know, like this might be a like
long game,
an end of the world. You know, like she's on her way out, and then she's going to be like, and now I turn. So my idea for season 2 is that Lord Vree would be traveling.
Yes.
He is now going to be the adventurer, which he's very looking forward to, Jan.
I didn't even know that there was a Lord Vree.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
That's incredible.
I'm excited for that.
So I feel like if Yurik writes a letter, does he come in person or does he...
Of course he comes in person.
Yeah, so he knocks and is brought to a meeting, and then at the desk is Jan instead of Lhanji. So, like, Lhanji has politely excused herself from meeting, because you had to give a name, and the butler did. Yeah. So you meet Lord Vree, who is very interested in your money. It just depends, you know, like, he doesn't know, as far as you know, has no idea where it's coming from. I don't know if would Yurik still make the offer?
I think that he...
Would he have to be like, I was just visiting for fun?
I just thought I would talk to an old friend.
In the city? mining my wealth.
Totally, it was Lhanji's way of getting away, like freeing herself from any promises to dirty weasel like you.
Yeah, I don't think he would. Give any details to this person he doesn't know. So if she's not willing to see him, then he probably wouldn't.
I say, Master Milksmith, do come in. It's a jolly fellow, excellent sideburns.
Yes.
I'm only here for the moment. Unless Lady Vree is around.
Offers you refreshments, tries to make conversation. He's like, I hear you're in business. I myself fancy myself a businessman of sorts. A total, not quite a fop, but definitely inspired by the Doctor Who companion Harry Sullivan.
Yurik is probably wondering how this relationship has kept together. Probably thinking, something about, royal status stuff that he just doesn't even care and
these are all the right questions to be asking.
I don't think he would end up giving him much.
Great question, Kitty. As Fionn steps from behind the desk, he is not wearing the pants. Absolutely.
I feel like I want to do just real quick, back at the after you've given your story to the count or whatnot, just a short bit of role play. So I feel like Ash would sort of, as everyone is sort of milling about with their drinks from the servants and whatever, Ash would sort of come to the group and attempt to sort of say a few last words to the group, right? And we probably haven't seen each other for maybe a couple. I don't know how long it takes to get from the Extra Village, but a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah, a month
roughly, or whatever. Yeah. And he would sort of walk up timidly after you've told and redacted from the story, and he would sort of nod his head to Lady Vree and the others and. Lady Vree, I appreciate the recounting of our adventure, and I appreciate you keeping your word.
It was nothing.
I know it must have been difficult, but we all left with something in mind, and I implore you to all remember that many of us have returned with something very valuable to us. Lhanji, your daughter, I trust, will be in good health. And Yurik, your adventure of a lifetime. Alexi, the answers you so... I'm talking to a chair.
Yes.
Alexi, the answers you so desperately sought. I hope that you perhaps can look on this as a win, even though it may not have worked exactly how you imagined it would. For what it's worth, I am sorry for the deception, but I think that you will understand that it was necessary for the job that I was sent to accomplish. And he turns to Furla. Furla, I know you must be upset, and I know that this seems confusing. I think that you can chalk it up to just another one of those aspects of humanity that don't make any sense.
I've already made my judgments.
I want you to know that the words that I told you during our journey, I meant what I said. And I guess we did walk among the rings after all, didn't we?
We did.
I hope that you find.
We didn't, rather.
I hope that you find a welcoming place, and I implore you that the Cross Keys could be a good place for you if you were looking for a place to belong. I know I was, and I found it.
I'm not interested.
Well, you know, I guess you don't know where to find me, and that's probably best.
Have you gotten what you wanted, Ash?
I have done my duty, and that is what I set out to do.
Well, then I suppose you should leave.
I suppose
Seems
so.
like that's what you're best at. Getting what you want and then leaving.
Oh! Barbs.
Yep.
Sorry.
She has a teenage heart beneath the bar.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Ash feels as I do right in this very moment.
The barbs.
Speechless.
Will we ever see you again, boy?
It's doubtful, but perhaps.
You've got a home at the Frost Forge, if so.
I appreciate that, Milksmith. I will be around. Tay, I'll see you on Sunday.
For family dinner.
Church, and then
He walks back to Raminar as they
Yeah.
head out the room.
Excellent.
That was nice.
So yeah, that was the only scene that I had. That
Well, I think
yeah, I'm curious to hear more about.
I have thoughts on what Furla would do. So Furla would definitely visit with Lhanji's child and make sure that Lhanji's child is okay, and also have kind of a visceral emotional reaction to the child and to meeting
the seed of Lhanji?
Vree's, the Lord Vree. Have a weird we are all connected moment, right?
Yeah.
What is this?
Our roots are
was just real freaked out by Furla.
Zoom in on Lhanji and zoom in on
Lhanji,
zoom
what
in
is
on the
this?
child.
Yeah, it's just crying. And then I think after that weird moment, saying, we will see each other again soon, but I have a journey to make.
Oh.
Well, do come back, or I'll find you.
And sets foot on the journey to the Rootbound Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm. To report back to them.
Yeah. And I think behind the veil, Furla's motivation for keeping the secret is that a knowledge of thinking about the way that all the humans reacted to the ring fall and just being kind of crazy greedy driven towards it, and that if everyone learned that there was this portal to the rings, then suddenly there would just be a huge influx of people there, and they would destroy the grove.
Yeah.
I did not even think about that our
That's
characters
huge.
were standing on the ring fall.
You could've brought it with you.
I'm just now realizing that.
Yes.
It's
Well,
that's
it's survival mode kicked in. It's just
I
nothing
don't
else
think that-
mattered except holy shit.
We're standing on gold.
That was a big part of the motivation to open it. Was
Yeah.
that if you were on the rings, then it would be
That's crazy. I didn't even. Yeah, you're right.
How old is your
Keith.
kid?
This
I was
human desire to
just
harvest, which is kind of in complete opposition to Furla as a druid,
It brought out
keeper
the-
of the of growth and life, this human concept of just taking everything.
Yeah, whatever the
harvesting
case, it
abundantly.
brought out the worst in people, right?
Interesting. That's cool, Keith.
So I think Furla gets back to the Rootbound Brotherhood and reports, gets a private meeting with the like high druid,
Yes,
or whatnot, and
Yes, remember him? I role-played him.
Oh, I remember that.
Garden of
Motherfucker.
War.
This is so good.
He had such a soft and fragile old voice.
yes,
I love that old man voice. Holy shit.
It's so good.
Furla of the White Nell Grove. I've returned from the expedition. The seed has been planted. The North Pole.
Yes, we have seen the trees grow in our own groves as well.
Might I see it? The seed, the paired.
of course, yeah. He leads you down the headquarters of the Rootbound Brotherhood is in a place called the Stone Glade, because it was a like forest of absolutely massive trees, but that were like petrified, right? So that the like massive husks of them that are standing are like these crazy stone, kind of like fortresses, but like out of wood, right? And like lots of like the kind of winding staircases and like the round rooms and stuff. And in the center of it is a massive room that like ringed around it are all of these trees that are all planted, and they've all been planted in this ritual and planted on the same day as the tree in the north. And he leads you to one that is relatively new, a sapling.
Yeah, but it's growing.
But yeah, it's growing, and like kind of whatever the runes on the wood in front of it is inscribed the White Knoll Grove, or maybe it's not, and he gestures for you to describe it.
Yeah, totally do.
We do not have a name for the grove, but it sounds like you have one.
It is called the White Nell Grove. It was maybe the first thing that I knew for truth in this life of mine. It was the only thing I knew of it. Was its name. That isn't even really the correct translation of it, but it's the closest.
Whatever.
Yeah. In common, yeah. You must know that this grove is dangerously tangled with Ringfall. It's the only thing that's keeping that tree alive. And there's also a dangerous potential for people to trample at this grove and this tree if they learned of the abundance of Ringfall that was found at the North Pole in the expedition.
So Furla's.
And I tell him, I make him swear that he can't say anything, but he has to know in order to protect the grove. That there was a portal that went to the rings, and that if people knew about it, then they would flock there and they would mine it, and then it would destroy the grove. So it needs to be kept secret, but it needs to be known.
Spicy.
Spicy.
For
it needs to be known among the Rootbound Brotherhood to continue that.
Eric tried to tell him.
You're trying to tell everyone.
He offers to you.
Problem.
As the founder of the grove and the planter of the seed, it is only proper that you are offered the opportunity to be the grove keeper of the White Knoll Grove.
I might have to think on that.
Yeah, you can think on it, but if you would like to, establish a grove there with like other druids and have like a sort of a kind of a convent in the same way that like those other priests there did, right? But like druids and protecting the grove and live out her days there, or she can continue on in the adventures to come.
Oh, that makes so much sense. That's so tempting. But the roots.
That'd be sick. Just like place in the world too.
Yeah.
Just like more.
Well, it will be it will be there either way. But whether Furla is like the grove keeper or not,
I think that, and this is like, and I'm imagining that you have like, is it sort of like a place where you like have a room with the Rootbound Brotherhood, like a place that you stay or whatever? I'd like to do like just a quick aside, but maybe you return to the Rootbound Brotherhood and maybe like a couple weeks later, 'cause I'm assuming that there are like maybe one or two, like the Cross Keys sort of like is infiltrated in several other sort of groups like I did in the root bound, maybe one or two.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say that in a few weeks from that point, right? You return to your room, and there's been delivered something
goat's
on onto your bed. yeah, Kalima's face. On your bed, there's a scroll.
Ooh.
And there's a note on the outside of the scroll, and it says, "To Furla, from a friend."
I recognize my own name, but I can't read it. So I pack it up and I head back to Orthelium and bring it directly to Lhanji in order to have it be read.
Seriously?
Yeah, because I couldn't trust.
It says on the note, "To Furla, from a friend," and you open it up, and it is the scroll from the Extra Village.
Oh, okay, I would recognize that. Yeah.
And underneath the text in the old time, right? 'Cause it was in the old time, right? That was.
No, it wasn't. It was just like it was a spell, and he couldn't. They couldn't read anyway.
Right.
So you translated it.
Underneath, Ash has written in, basically the translation of the spell in full, saying that it was
a necromancy spell.
Oh,
yes.
dang! That created
explaining
me.
your creation in full, hiding nothing. And he's written it in there.
And that some other life had to have been like given in order for the life to have been created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I would unroll it and recognize the scroll and that you've written something there, but I can't read it. So I would roll it up and bring it to Lhanji. Would you, like, when you read his writing, would you tell me the truth of what it said?
Oh God. Lhanji would say, "This is addressed to you. I assure you want you reading it."
This is from Ash, and if it contains secrets, those secrets can only be safe between us.
This whole secret business is getting a bit ridiculous.
You're telling me secrets are a human thing.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Alright, Lhanji does read it.
Fuck you, Milksmith.
And do tell Freyla what?
Oh, reads it aloud.
Oh, yeah.
Word for word.
In a very private drawing room. All scenes with Lhanji heretofore take place in drawing rooms.
Yes.
Be advised.
Yes.
Be advised.
Well, I guess that someone died in order to bring me life.
Happens all the time.
I suppose it does. I'd like to think that in my time here, I will have...
Grizzled Forla, I suppose it does.
I suppose it does. I'd like to hope that in my time here, perhaps I've saved enough lives to offset that. Maybe your child is the first, the birth of a new grove.
Or your seed, for that matter.
Yeah. I suppose it's just a matter of the cycle of life, in a way.
Yes, I've found that it doesn't do me any good to dwell on the death toll behind me.
I like how this is death toll. Like
death toll, yeah.
Ew, that shit.
I suppose that's a good way of thinking of it. I think Ash might also be twisting some kind of dagger in my side.
I thought his parting was the best he could do, really.
For a parasite.
I did mention something about contaminated soil, didn't I?
Oh, shit.
He's surviving the way he knows. Isn't that what we're all doing?
I suppose so. I could use a drink.
Grizzled Furla.
Yeah. Grizzled Furla.
Season 2 is the Orion of the Expedition.
Yeah.
Yes. And the
on Furla season 2 with
Furla
like
goes
more
emo.
knowledge. Like,
perhaps the parting shot of Furla is using the like regrown
tiny
arm.
Yes.
And, like, very
Forcefully.
Yes.
Like,
very carefully pick up.
Lhanji would totally be like, drink is a great idea for forgetting the death toll.
I feel like
Has some very stiff stuff in this particular drawing.
Yes.
a sweet like ending shot for Furla would be like a new little arm going to grab for a drink, and then it opens up.
Oh, fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
News of the
Grabs drink. Cut.
Crushes it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Season 2 Furla's all like.
Yeah, the arm is going to be like 8 feet
arm.
long. You just gotta like hang it over your head most of the time.
monster arm. What a great aspect.
I love it. I bought it.
Hilarious.
Anyways, awesome.
Yep. Well, that's about it. I mean, yeah. Reminiscing. We have this spread of minis out in front of us here from the mini characters that were in your expedition.
Yeah.
And the many encounters that you had along the way. And it was a wonderful story that you guys all brought to life with all these relationships and all these characters.
I feel like I'd love to, just for the fun of it, try and and I love doing favorites, and I know some people don't like doing favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But does anyone have like a favorite episode in mind, like a favorite session?
Favorite moment or
favorite like moment or like favorite session?
yeah, I'd straight up the moment when Taylor was playing Jimothy mocking other characters.
Yeah.
Like that to me.
Wait, was that
was
so? What?
epic
I can't remember the
roleplay.
context.
Yeah.
Was that at the Grove?
Yeah, he was mocking Lhanji, mocking Yurik, mocking Alexi, his other character, and I was just
Right.
like, that was awesome.
That was a great moment.
That is the first thing that came to my mind. That was an epic roleplay.
Man, I remember just losing it when Lhanji was like, I don't care about any of the people.
Yeah.
Like, what? I just fell out of my chair.
Yeah,
Just like,
Furla doesn't make her pay for that, but
But Alexi.
no, we talked it through afterwards.
Gosh.
It's so hard for me to say.
yeah, Josh, do you have a favorite sort of session that was just like?
I feel like the finale, those 2 episodes were just perfect. That was like the ending of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, thank
where
you.
it's like
I mean, I
was riveted for the whole duration of both those episodes.
They were epic, and everybody dying. Like, we had a lot of dramatic character death right at the end there.
And like, I never saw Ash's secret coming. So hats off for keeping that.
Yeah.
All that card so close all the way until like the final moment.
Well, that was kind of like the moment when it was made for, right? And it's interesting because like early on, I was like, I don't really know who Ash is, and I don't really know how to play this character. And then like the closer we got, I'm like, oh no, everything is going towards this.
He's
final
motivated
moment.
so
like,
strongly
the
towards like
secret
just
is
the end.
so centered on the end. So like at the beginning, he's sort of, I guess like aloof is the best that he could do, and then sort of, so yeah, it makes his secret was sort of so bent towards that.
But that made his character have a growth that felt really cool.
Yeah,
and changed. He felt dynamic. Yeah, I was like questioning whether taking it to like 11 and taking it to Off of the Planet was too much, because I felt like it was like, episode 16 or like 15 or something around there was delivering what was promised, and then it was like going beyond what was promised, and I wasn't sure how well that would be received. But
see, I thought it was awesome because like the whole time I was thinking, dragons are the thing.
Yeah,
like, something cool is gonna happen with the dragons, but like the fact that it was like we just run past the dragons into something even more outrageous was great, because I think not only for me as a player but for my character, like he's intending to go up and find something out amazing about dragons, these things that he's studied, and that's what Raminar went to send him up to like look at, was dragons. So like the sudden shift would, even like for the first time, I think it would be a time where, I mean, since the Kalupalik really, but Ash felt thrown and unsure, because he was like, I knew that I was heading towards dragons, and then that was obvious, you know, and I knew more about dragons than everyone else, and I felt like I had an idea about what was going to happen, and then it went totally off the rails, which was great.
Yeah, off the planet.
I loved the debate too. Like, it was such an intense debate, and everybody was like we were pretty torn over whether to make the decision or not, and it was a really interesting dynamic debate, as opposed to like a party being like, should we like kill these like random wolves, or should we tame them, or like should we go this way or that way, right? It was like there were some serious lines drawn in the sand, and like
I felt the stakes were intriguingly high for everybody coming from their diverse perspectives in the end game. Everyone had a personal angle.
Yeah, and it all felt like it was kind of falling apart and desperate, right?
Which is a great horror climax.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's great because, you know, never having been a part of like a tabletop gaming campaign or done this before, I didn't.
Our virgin.
Yeah, this was Eric's first game ever. Is a crazy thing to think of.
It's a good one. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult to find another game that lives up to it. To be honest, but I didn't understand that a debate like that near the end of the campaign, where everyone is literally like, it just feels like everyone's just talking as their character. Like, it doesn't really, everyone's just expressing as their character. There's not really a distance between like, oh, what would my character maybe say, and then maybe, okay, how do I say it? You know, it's like I was just speaking as my character, and like knowing, at the beginning I didn't understand that kind of thing could actually happen. But like, you go through a campaign, and so that kind of debate can't happen on like, you know, session 2, but like session 17, where like all the stakes have been constant, like everyone,
you know, your character, you know, like the world, and you know what these things mean, then you know what it, you know the points of the debate, you know,
what you would think,
where you would stand.
It was so obvious to me, whereas if we were in a discussion like that early on, I'd be like, I'm not really sure, you know, I could go this way or that way, but
And what was fun for me as far as Yurik goes is that's the first time Yurik had an opinion that was his honest opinion, was that debate. The first time he ever argued for something he actually wanted. Because what Yurik's, but even behind his aspect, you know, the secret one about the dragon eggs and his hunt for eggs in general and his whole criminal empire, behind that is the lust for adventure. And because he's always had everything. He grew up wealthy. He continues to be wealthy, you know, like blah blah blah. So it's just like he's always had everything, and all he wants is just something to give him a rush.
Right.
So this one opportunity, no one was going to take that away from him. He was going to experience whatever was going through this portal. So like that, it was like an entire season of build up for Yurik to finally be like, no, like, this is what we're doing. Like, and I can tell you can roll right now, I'm telling you the truth for the first time. So that was really exciting.
I feel like it was the same, it was kind of like the same for Ash as well. Like an entire season of build up of like, no. Like, my purpose here is to continue going farther and to learn more and to like get the knowledge so that I can take it back, and like nothing is going to stop that purpose, sort of thing. Which I think was cool, like towards the end, that Yurik and Ash's sort of their reasonings were different, but their intent was the same. Which made us like a very powerful sort of.
Yeah, you guys were like the only two that were like super about it.
We're gonna do it. Whereas if Ash was alone in that intent, I think it would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
To convince the group.
Kitty and Kirby have some things here in the chat about highlights for them. Furla losing her arm
Oh yeah, I mean that's for me.
Yeah,
that's when the campaign started.
Man, that argument, the snowvine killing that guy.
Up to then, it's like this is kind of like everything up to then is just sort of like figuring it out, and like figuring out the game a little bit, whatever. And then Furla's just like, I put my arm.
Yeah.
I just
the
heard it. I was
snowvine
like,
killing
oh
that
shit!
dude.
I feel like Furla's secret and like the Furla's kind of centric arc was the first one up to bat, and it did like easy to forget from the high stakes of the finale, but like it was cool to get to see a longer development arc resulting from.
Yeah, that was
really.
Yeah, and seeing the like child in the Kalupalik fight, right, which is another thing they're mentioning here.
Oh shit, the Kalupalik.
Yeah, and like her curse of the land and her like past and going. She encountered that stuff early because that was just early in the adventure, right?
But I think the like the moment where that person was like calling me out
as being a curse of the land,
of the land, that was the first like moment when I really like stepped into like Furla and the snowvine, right? Because I was just like, okay, what does Furla do in this moment? And then it's like probably hesitate because of this like sense of being like, oh no, I can't, like I've been discovered and all that, but then being like looking at the snowvine's character sheet and being like it's dangerously protective of Furla, and then just being like,
Snowvine roars into top tier NPC all of a sudden. Just like,
totally.
From like, oh, that could be a Snowvine that sort of burrows around every once in a while and be like, oh, it just straight up murdered that guy. really well.
Yeah, totally.
What was the cliff fight?
Yeah, the cliff fight with Dolph and riding up that I was going to mention that is one of my favorite encounters of the whole game was the party being split, right? Some of the party on the lift fighting against the harpies, and the other half of the party fighting against the Brideport expedition up top was a a pretty wild encounter.
Yeah, that's where we lost the endives.
That is where we lost the endives.
It was. Dolph burned his hands up real good.
Dolph's hands got destroyed.
Wait, and that was where Alexei was like facing mano a mano to
Iron Tusk.
Iron Tusk. And then Lydian Kren was there, and Ash lost
and Lyca the wolf.
Yeah,
Karnislav got away.
Which, by the way, I feel like the thing to do with Karnislav and Lydian Kren is just to leave them both out there, and that they might return for for season 2.
Right? Delicious.
Away with bated breath.
Karnislav is like too much to leave.
Lady Narkinzi, maybe she'll be involved. Who knows?
Not if Walruses are involved.
Well,
guaranteed.
Yeah,
she might have a vengeance against Walrus.
She's like a huge Walrus like poacher.
Walrus hunter.
That's always
she's got Walrus touched all over her house.
I killed my husband. I'll slay them all.
8 pianos.
We're gonna meet her on the high seas, murdering whales. She became a deep sea big game.
Lady Narkenzi is now just like
she's got like an eye patch.
She's out there with 2 spikes.
Killing them in the sea.
Man, I really liked Hero's death. That was pretty. That was like maybe the first NPC death that I really heard. I guess it was just Amelia before that, but when Hero died, and I was like, okay, we don't even know this guy very well, but he had a cool like shtick with his aspects and stuff, and the death was like pretty meaningful, and that was when it started to like sink in of like, oh man, this whole cast is gonna die.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be terrible.
Yeah, because we had gotten off pretty easily up until then.
Yeah, and
then two NPCs died right off the bat. And that was definitely like the turning point for Tay's character as well. Where I was like, oh, I think
Amelia got to never finish her world map.
That's why you brought the tokens of our fallen companions. So
partially finished map.
This person also gets some kind of reward. We set up a cartography scholarship for world mappers.
I love it.
The Amelia Scholarship.
I was trying to remember what her last name was. You have the roster, don't you?
I do, yeah.
I could not remember her last name, but I remember that we had come up with one.
That was
Amelia
mine.
Charmin.
That was mine that I created, I think.
Best boy,
Charmant.
favorite.
Yeah, I feel like you were pronouncing it Charmant. Amelia Charmant.
Babs Califrey and Dolph Kingsmith.
Yep.
Nicknamed Snookers.
I also definitely love the Wendigo fight. Admittedly, that was the Wendigo, the Remoraz were probably the two like fights that I was most excited about before like throwing them, and I was really happy with how they both went down. I mean, the Wendigo was just really freaky leading up to that. That was definitely the most like horrific of any of the encounters. And then the whole lead up, and then Timberbreast being turned into a like half part Wendigo and stuff, and favorite the Wendigo.
People screaming and trying to take flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was super
like
freaky.
all the nightmares, like the personalized nightmares going up to that. That was really sweet to set that up.
Totally.
And I love the Remoraz, and definitely to me the most horrific death out of any of them was Babs being just swallowed whole by that Remoraz.
Burned alive while being digested.
Yeah. It's horrible. That was wild.
I was pretty partial to the Snowvine's death, but
totally. And also
and Navius.
Yeah.
Snowvine. Did Snowvine?
They both died to the dragon.
Yeah.
Which I was pleased with the fact that in the end you guys didn't really fight a dragon, but it killed two main NPCs, and you guys were so freaked out by the dragon, and it seems appropriate, right? Given the stakes and the story and everything, it seemed right that killed two people, and that you guys ultimately really were trying not to fight one at all costs. I think that was really cool.
And I think leading up to it sort of worked out too, as far as like. As soon as we were in the grove and like our first interaction with Drake, it was just like, we don't fight this.
Yeah, when that one showed up and it was that big, and it was
everyone hides. Like, no, we don't fight this fucking thing.
No way. No way.
And also when there's thousands,
we got wrecked.
That like, I think if I was to like think of the sessions where we finished and I was just like. Fucking high.
The most excited,
was definitely like that second to last episode, which was incredible. With the end, like right at the end with the Snowvine and everything, and good lord, and then it was the
pyramid,
one in the grove, and I can't remember exactly everything that happened.
Yeah, well, there was kind of two episodes in the grove.
I think Jimothy died, but it was the one. Yeah, it was definitely the one where Jimothy died at the end. But like the entire episode was roleplay.
Yeah,
and it was just like
drawing the line.
Such a cool. It was such a cool. It was another kind of thing where it's similar to the second to last episode, but like the episodes where it's like. We just went 35-40 minutes of just straight role play.
Totally.
just Josh just let us like kind of do the thing. I was just like always buzzing at the end of those.
This game has been a great reminder to me, and it's just a reminder that I constantly find that I need as a DM, which is that at the end of the day, the players really want to play like their character's story, not like your story so much, right? So the more, as much as really I was like inserting myself through like the encounters and the stuff that you guys were fighting, kind of the world that you were moving through, but like but man, those moments were always so enjoyable where you guys were just like in your characters and talking to one another and so dramatic, and I mean you were doing the work for me, so yeah, it was.
Well, I think the secrets and the context and the rivals and all of that stuff added up to such like dense, crossfire.
It did feel very dense,
stuff, which not in a bad way, but it's just like that's the stuff I feel like that fueled all the role play, like all the secrets and stuff, because then you could role play from the knowledge of that secret, which made it more than just like. It gave you your character.
You had a background to come from and a knowledge to like work off of. Yeah, totally. Well.
Anyone else have favorites? Hannah, did you say that?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember like episodes that we forgot.
That's fun.
I liked fighting the judge. Like the confrontation with the judge was pretty great, because that was when we were like, wait a minute, what is up with Urek?
Yeah.
And you were just like, we're not going to talk about it. Like he was totally wrong, right?
Dude,
we were all
that
just
that was such a sick moment too with Jimothy. When he just fucking slit the judge's throat.
Just like, the bailiff's throat, right? That was an interesting. I mean, that whole encounter when I threw that at you guys, I was like, I know that they're going to defeat these people. Like they're not particularly strong, but that's not what this is about at all.
Right.
This is about revealing Yurik's secret to everyone and seeing how they handle it, and about, I was anticipating like a bailiff being alive and being like, what do they do with, or just in general, what do they do with this encounter of this judge? Do they decide to fight them, or do they, you know, it would cause just an interesting drama in itself.
Well, I feel like it was interesting because it sort of revealed Jimothy's true character as well. As far as like, he's not a jester. He's not sort of like a bumbling.
Yeah, he's cold-blooded too,
like he's
right?
cold-blooded, which I will say that like some of my favorite moments from the campaign as well was one-on-one roleplay with Jimothy, which was like always incredibly intense.
Yeah, man, his character like personality would just completely flip, right?
Yeah. And he would get really intense.
He would
like,
he would switch from that like kind of amiable, like agreeable kind of like, brag about himself and whatever type of person, to being like straight to the business and like, I'm on to you. Yeah. Right?
I feel like it was almost a thing where Jimothy was like a perfectly flawed character because he wanted to know everything and he wanted everyone to like be in under his thumb. He wanted everyone to be, but like he wanted too many people and he wanted too much, right? He like tried to hold too many people in under his thumb, and just like
he never went after Furla.
It turned on him.
There was never like there was never a one-on-one with Furla, but I'm also like, what would that entail? Like there was nothing to be gained.
I don't know if he knew. He really knew how to handle.
He could sniff out like when people had like spicy secrets. So he went after Ash and he went after Yurik, you know. But man, Jimothy, what a character!
Yeah,
holy shit.
Yeah, Jimothy, arguably my favorite character of the campaign. I will say, like, without a doubt, the character who at first I was like not really excited about, and who without a doubt I flipped the most on, right? From where I started with how I felt about that character to where I ended with how I felt about that character. I was really worried about Jimothy and like Kalima being like too much comic relief, right? And like a otherwise horror story. But
Kalima's perfect.
No, but they were the right amount of comedic relief, right? Even in telling a horror story, we want to be having fun at the table.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, Jimothy kind of playing both sides and the complexity of that character was fun, and it was a really fun experience to have with Taylor, who's relatively new at role playing as well. To like have that, I talked with him for like an hour and a half on the phone about like basically the encounter when Alexi learning the information through the journal, and then his encountering with Jimothy and how that would like play out, or how we kind of hoped that it would play out, but we wanted to leave it up to everyone. That was a really fun like kind of co-writing experience to have with him.
Nice.
And then try to come into at the table and both knowing that was coming, and then like have it happen and watch it play out, and then of course his like arguing with himself was
that was great,
unbelievable.
I mean, and it's
15 minutes of all of us just sitting here like watching him like it was kind of jaw drop, just watching him argue intensely with himself.
And it was so cool how all the seeds had been sown for like the specific people. Like Jimothy had like affected just enough people in such a specific way where like there are certain people who are like, yeah, this guy should die right now. There was a lot of like early on, Jimothy sort of found out Ash's secret. Right, so like,
which was when when you guys were at the place that was like passing beyond the rings, right? And there was that like giant stone.
He saw me make the cross
Ash
keys,
was like
mark in the stone, right? Because like at that point I knew that there were other cross keys members.
Cedric had marked it, and you searched for it. Yeah.
And like at that point that was like a one-on-one conversation between Ash and Jimothy. And he sort of somewhat found out Ash's secret, not in a full way, but like since that point, Ash was, would like I gotta get rid of this guy. Like,
you guys were at each other's throats.
This guy's dangerous.
Yeah.
This guy.
You're like threatening to torture him.
Like I just know that he's a liar, and he's going to like utilize this information, and this is going to compromise the entire.
Which sounded great to Yurik.
Yeah.
Honestly, like pulling back the Breaking Bad reference, at some point I realized that like Jimothy could have been Yurik's Saul Goodman. Like he was like. He was. I was into that after the episode that Jimothy confronted him about. It was like, Yurik is that kind of mind where he's like, how can I turn this problem into something that works for me, not against me?
Yeah.
See, in Ash's mind, it was like, if this person lives to get to where we're going, there's no possibility of me keeping his mouth shut.
Letting him return back.
So like he needs to die somewhere along the way, and like once that scenario was set up, I mean Ash was like,
"Yep,
let's do it! Like hell yeah, let's kill this guy right now." Yeah. I'm glad that I'm not the one who has to do it out here. That we're like doing it as a group. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like that was a very. I don't think I would have the guts to choose to play that kind of character that, you know, like you're basically creating a character that you're not a complete fan of. I feel like, you know, like
you admit that they're a villain from the beginning.
I think is a cool thing about the having a secondary
I agree.
NPC.
Yeah,
like I feel like a lot of people we all had very cool and different dynamics with our main character and NPC.
Yeah.
I also tend to get super nostalgic about like the kind of like the reputation or like the dynamic of a party that stays in my memory. You know, like the first tabletop RPG I ever played, like I will forever remember that party dynamic. And I feel like this was an excellent part. I feel like we had so many good checks and balances, and at all of the like crossroads we had voices for like many of the possible paths, which is always more fun.
Yeah.
So I props to Taylor for playing like just kind of like a character with a bad after day. It's like you're kind of fighting against yourself and playing such a weasel. Yeah.
And then like the difference between like such a vast like ocean of difference of like personality between those two characters.
Like it's very fun to play heroes and anti-heroes, but Jimothy was just an asshole.
But like so much fun that it's just like, oh okay. You gotta keep
Well, I think what's interesting is what you were saying is being able to, because we had control of two characters, we had the opportunity to be someone the group wouldn't like. If I feel like a lot of my experiences with, you know, RPG games is so far is like, if the group isn't somewhat single-minded and headed in a direction, you often don't go anywhere. Like if Jimothy eventually becomes so different from the group, then we disband his character, and that's okay,
but then
because
you still
Taylor
have a
has another character to continue
who's like
playing.
so freaking loyal to the group.
And so it's just just gives that opportunity, and like even from my like even if y'all had been eventually, if something similar would have happened to Yurik, which I could have seen happening, honestly, then I would have had Kalima, but I probably would have supplemented with maybe something else, like, you know, Taylor got to pick up.
You could bump somebody else up.
Sure. But it works in a campaign where you're traveling in more than just 5 people traveling down the road in a direction. You know, it gives it a much more like, it gives you buffer to be able to be like, well, if I want to make a bad decision right now, that's okay. Even if bad stuff happens to this character, I may have a replacement.
You don't have to feel like as covetous of your character, because you're not like in a regular D&D game. You're like, character dies, and then you're like, all right, this random new person has to come in.
How did we get this into the scene?
So it felt cool that we had that fallback. And in a couple Powered by the Apocalypse systems, they coach the GM to roleplay NPCs like stolen cars. Right? you have this like reckless abandon with your NPCs as the GM to just be like I don't care what happens to these NPCs. I'm gonna like have them kind of cause a ruckus everywhere they go. And I feel like we as players were allowed to do that with our NPCs because we didn't care as much.
Yeah, right. We certainly did that with Snowvine. Just like Snowvine, fucking, it's. You know, it's sort of like a non-caring being, and similar to Kalima, where it's like Kalima's already there. Yeah, Kalima does not care of the quest, so like Kalima can fuck shit up, and then
Kalima's gonna be the one to tell about all the secrets. You know that.
Yeah. All along it was a talking goat.
Goat shouting all
Nobody
over
got her to make a promise.
First goat in space. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of that was the mechanic of the like horror toolkit of giving you the big cast of characters, and then like because you have that big cast and you know that many of them are going to die, then it allows for those moments in story to take place. Characters dying and like the struggle and the drama that creates is so juicy, right? And it's something that we so rarely actually experience at the role-playing game table is characters dying. Characters that are really close to the party and important to them, either PCs or like really, really close NPCs. So I thought that ended up. I had no idea how any of that was going to work. It created a lot of pressure to me, like in the early game. I felt particularly to be like hurting you guys and doing enough damage to be whittling down the group. And by the end, I let go of that a little bit, and it seemed like also though like you guys embraced it more and you let people go a little bit more, while I also let go, like feeling like I had to be so brutal, and we all kind of just accepted like this is the type of story that we're trying to tell, and that felt awesome, especially toward the end. But
I think like once we figured out how to kill people off in like a meaningful way, it became like an interesting thing for us all to do. Yeah,
and we saw how dramatic of a scene that created.
Be like, let's have this person do like something that is gonna save everyone else, but like really do them a lot of harm, you know, kind of thing. Like the whole cliff thing with Dolph and everything. Where it was like, oh yeah, like it's cool to, you know, whereas I maybe wouldn't like take the stress on my stress from like an attack from a harpy, but like if I can throw an NPC in there to do something fucking badass, and, like save a bunch of people or whatever, like okay, great, they're, you know, we're basically playing season 8 of Game of Thrones at that point. Being like, everyone gets a hero's death, you know? Yeah. Everyone gets like a big moment to shine.
It is important to bring up that Kirby's favorite chat moment included the ballista versus trebuchet vote.
In which we discovered that trebuchets are definitely cooler than ballistas.
Yes.
It was fact. No, it was voted on.
It seems like it's subjectively preferred among this group is what we voted on.
No, that's not what we voted on. It was objectively cooler.
Better. Yeah, cooler.
But it was pretty funny to be like seeing people like arguing over it in the chat, and then to like sneak in and be like, here's a vote, like put it to a vote.
Yeah. Yeah, we can get in there. It's fine.
We could wrap up too. Oh. Unless anybody else had anything to say.
I think the only thing that I was still thinking was that
Sorry.
Okay.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
You don't see anything. Can you get in there, Jen? Go ahead, open it up.
Pay no attention to the
there we go.
Pay no attention to the Foley artist in the background.
Oh.
Look at that.
Switch to the minis. Yeah.
Look at these minis.
Wow, there's a lot of them.
Sorry.
You can be our Foley artist anytime.
I can. The whole
live TV, everyone.
The whole two player, like the NPC thing, although it like provides so much like cool stuff, it was super intimidating at the beginning. Yeah, for me, for sure.
Yeah, that's why I played to go. That is exactly why I played to go.
Players.
That is, I knew it was going to be
super intimidating, but like as it progressed, it became super invigorating, just because like Ash was such a fucking downer.
Their personalities were so different.
It was just like, I can like refreshingly play someone who gives a shit about people, or like who like loves authority rather than like
abhors it.
shirks it off. But
Yeah.
I think that was such a fun. Well, it was fun because I could put so much less thought into Tay, and I think because of that, going forward, like it became easier to be like, all right, here's just this one thing that I'm gonna focus on. Like Tay is gonna be a character that is sort of obsessed with like this one other person in the party, and like learning from this expedition from her, right? And that was like day one. Like the first thing that Tay asked about was where Lhanji was. And I didn't really know how that was going to play out, but that was like one of my favorite parts about like the sort of arc, the like gradual acceptance after like a long time, just like constant.
Yes.
Constant, like trying to prove
totally.
oneself.
By that last session, they were gripped arms and like pulling on the rope
together. And it was
together.
such a cool thing because I was like, oh, this
surrounded
feels
by crazy people.
Yep. It was such a cool thing because I was like, oh, this feels earned. Like as a character, like my character, I feel good for my character because it felt like a long road to like get there, and I felt okay about the fact that it's like, oh, this is sort of like a one note character. Like this character has
flat.
like one thing. Like she cares. She like is more, cares about people maybe more than the rest of the group, and she wants to impress Lhanji. But like even just like allowing the NPC to have sort of like a one track thing, still was rewarding at the end, which I was really I didn't know how that was all gonna like turn out at the beginning, like mini characters to keep track of, and I was like, I don't even know how to do my own character.
It was a lot for you guys, but what I loved about it was that it basically was just a big cast of characters that like conversations and drama could take place amongst themselves, and I didn't have to be constantly pulling on all of these new characters, and I knew that they would be there, and that some of these other characters in these other expeditions that I could kind of pull in and out and have them there at my disposal in the same way that it would be if you were running like a city campaign or something. It had the conveniences of like a local like campaign with like all of this huge cast all moving along, right?
Because like once we got up into the waste, like you don't have a lot of
I knew, and that's what I was
to draw on.
I came up with this concept for this campaign a long time ago, but I didn't want to run it because I basically had realized that like quests in general are kind of like flawed as a story, as a like particularly for role-playing games at the table, because like it's not that interesting to just be constantly traveling into like the unknown and like uncovering things, and maybe you're learning things, but it's like, what does this mean and where are we going? And like we don't have anyone to interact with, we don't return to anyone, we don't like see the impact of our actions, right? It's interesting as like a reader, if you're reading a book, maybe to be like witnessing that, like Lord of the Rings is like that quest that's just always moving on and on.
But they were
it's
like constantly connecting with like societies that were all tangled in the quest, so the quest like continued to get new meaning as they went along, and they interacted with people who were connected with the people they were traveling with and whatnot. So that tricked it in different ways.
Is quite different. If you're expecting to go into nowhere, that can be terrifying, and as far as like expanding our characters, but I think that the big cast and our ability to have our secrets being uncovered slowly provided us with enough drama and material to get us up the hill without it being a boring.
I feel like it got there with like the perfect sort of amount of characters at the end. Like it all sort of. We sort of.
I mean, in the end, I think we had 7 that survived. Right. I think the only 2 surviving like main NPCs was Kalima
and Tay.
It's like 8.
And Tay. Was it 8?
4, 6.
Well, we didn't mark. I mean, Tessa got killed at the very end.
Oh, right.
At the very end,
I think that was.
And then Babs technically came back, or Dolph came back.
Dolph came back.
Yeah, that's true. Dolph never died.
Dolph never dies.
Dolph never dies.
Yeah, I think that's it. Those were the 7 characters that survived.
I appreciate having this session. This was super fun.
Yeah, totally.
This was awesome,
well,
guys.
thanks for requesting it. I was humbled by everybody basically wanting to have another session to still. They didn't have quite enough time in their characters, right? And I completely agree that it wrapped too fast.
Get things ready for new season.
I just feel like I put a lot of energy into my characters, and I witness the characters that are put out that clearly have so much energy put into them, and I just love hearing their creators talk about them, and I love talking about mine. So it was fun, and that plus the reminiscing is super fun. So.
And they all deserve a proper send off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe a return for the second season.
Perhaps.
Until next time.
Well, with that, thank you, Chat, Kitty, and Kirby, and Doc Swagbelly, and Void Effigy, and all of the other awesome components that help us to make magic here at the table. You guys make it such a joy. And yeah, the quips were top level in the chat this campaign.
Well, absolutely.
Really, it absolutely brings something. It's so fun for us to be seeing you guys having fun. It gives us a lot of energy, so thank you for it. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
GG.
Bye.